to FMA discussion. This is episode 238, and tonight we have the pleasure of having Tuhon Jared, Guro Ken, and with me the co-host with the co-host, Guro Tom Pena, who wanted to jump in on this, who's staying up extra late in London.
Good evening.
And tonight, folks, it's going to be more theme-oriented. Tuhon Jared's been on before a few times, so if you ever want to look up his episode, it went really, really well. I highly recommend you do that. You could find that on the channel and all that. And we're going to get started. So tonight's about weapons training for law enforcement agencies and the military. And we're going to look at the spectrum of both. And these gentlemen have their foot in the door, so to speak. Guro Ken is an actual police officer in Tennessee. Tuhon Jared works heavily with law enforcement agencies and the military. So we're going to get some unique perspectives of here. Far as what can be improved, what's status quo, some funding issues, training, and all that. So what made me come up with this, guys, I appreciate you both coming on. I'm really looking forward to this. And so what kind of gave me the idea is this. I think I was sharing it with Tuhon Jared. I dealt with a couple cops. I'm kind of relatively in a small area. And so the police that came to me, I said, all right, we'll pull out your baton. And they started swinging. It wasn't bad. They just kind of helped them, like recovering center, pulling back the tip so they get back on center if they missed. But when it came to the knife, it was actually kind of scary what they didn't have. Like not drawing under pressure, not just even edge aware. Like if somebody was coming at them, like I gave them different scenarios. Okay, well, what would you do in the kitchen if the guy's there and he's by a knife block? You know, just stuff like that. And I could tell, no fault of their own, but they just didn't have anything in regards to that. So we're going to jump into it, folks. If you're watching, tell us where you watch from, smash that like button. So first question, Guro Ken, from the premise of officers, do they take control of kind of their journey or their training to enhance their on-the-job performance, or God forbid that awful event happens, or are they more complacent with what the academy gives them?
On our end in Tennessee, basically, you get the academy. You get a week and a half, basically of defensive tactics. It doesn't center a lot on knife application or anything. It's usually Baton. After that, my agency is actually unique in that we actually require about 8 to 12 hours of use of force training every year for our officers. That's a lot in a lot of agencies. Some will never darken the doorstep of a defensive tactics again after the academy. They may read the policy only, going over that if they have a policy.
Yeah.
Basically, you have some officers that will get into something. They'll go into jiu-jitsu. Some are into boxing. Some will get into kickboxing. It kind of branches out, but in my area of the state, there's just not that many Filipino martial arts schools. And Paquitas especially, I only know of myself, a class in Memphis, and I believe there's a Paquita group. I know Jerry McCleary, Matas Guro, Jerry McCleary. Is Matas Guro on Paquita Turks International, and he's in East Tennessee. And that's all of the Paquita I know of around here. And so short answer is there's not many officers that really reach out to get into martial arts or any type of defensive tactics training after the academy, other than what the agency stipulates that they get attend.
Like kind of mandate, so to speak, after status quo, kind of you're good to go. Okay.
Yeah. And they love it so much that when I taught it for my agency, they called it Hours of Jowers. So I like
that.
Yeah.
So Tuhon Jared, this is kind of both from me and Tom. Before we get into particulars, when you train, whether it's police or military, like right up front, like you walk in a room, whether it's just like filling it out, conversation, or seeing videos or what have you of them training, what are you seeing as far as immediate deficits, like you notice right away with respects to both agencies?
Everything in general, quite honestly, it's kind of a tough it's a tough one. And just hours in training. Really, it's just time doing something, and something's better than nothing. But there's always something. There's going to be something better, so it can be more productive time. But really, I mean, everything in general. And I say that because the way that I approach, based on my experience working with both sides of that, both the police and the military side of the house, I like to create modules and kind of narrow down the focus of a particular POI. And because there's so many things that you could really break things down into, right? Just with law enforcement, you could be looking at just the cuffing and searching procedures, arrest and control tactics. You can be looking at weapon retention, counter knife tactics, and the list goes on. And so there's so many things, and I'm just going to say, like, everything in general. The law enforcement, even in the generally speaking, in the special operations community, military special operations community, there's a mystique about that community that everyone is a trained ninja, but the reality is these guys have to be really good at a lot of things. And jumping out of planes, scuba, combat scuba type stuff, shooting, survival, and the CQB, the list goes on. And so realistically, the time they have to dedicate to just hand-to-hand combat or contact weapon-based combat is really, really narrow. And so there's just kind of in general, there's just a lack of I say generally speaking, because there are exceptions to these rules, and not just individuals, but even at unit levels. Some units or departments may put more focus on training, where another one may put no focus on training. An individual may take it upon themselves to look for opportunities outside of what their department provides, where another one will just do what the department mandates. So there's not a lot of consistency there, but just in general, there's speaking in broad terms, there's a lack of training in many different areas.
Yeah, geez. I just, and this is what I wanted to do, is because I just find it puzzling. And I'm not saying I have the answer as far as, some of the difficulties of achieving, where they get their training, all that. But when I look at what these people do, day in and day out, to me, it just seems like a no-brainer. Again, I'm not saying I know all the nuances in particular as far as the bureaucratic side of things, but it just amazes me what I've noticed on a smaller scale than you, Tuhon, like what they're not getting. And these guys are going out there and potentially, not potentially, I mean, they are putting their lives on the line. And, especially in today's world. And I'm just amazed that there's just not more of a emphasis put on there. Am I wrong? Or is it,
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right, and it's
absolutely right.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of levels where that begins, and a lot of it is administratively, something happens when people get promoted to the brass levels of administration, and they forget how important it is that the officers need training. Because when budgets get cut within a police department. It's training is an intangible asset, right? And so, but it also is the failure to train is the largest liability in law enforcement. But it's usually people realize that after they kind of pay out the back end, and rather than pay up front to make sure that that
we'll cover the lawsuits.
Yeah,
we don't want
yeah.
Guro, Tom, do you have anything on?
How when you first started providing services for both the police officers or the military, what challenges basically did you encounter in trying to encourage them to do this training with you? Because I know there's they don't have much time for it. I mean, even here in the UK, although they carry a collapsible baton, but they only train for it once a year. So yeah. So
Ken, I don't know if you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, a lot of it is department mandated. We have to. A lot of officers, if we want to give them the training, we have to pay them for the training, so we have to actually have them attend. Tennessee requires 40 hours of in-service every year. Some agencies go way above that. Some go below that. It's just a manpower issue, and now manpower is personnel shortages are just there. Every agency I know of has a help on its side. I mean, constantly. So it's really hard to get anything beyond that stipulated, that mandated time in.
All right. Okay.
We've tried getting tried quarterly and everything, but scheduling really gets into a thing where defensive tactics for law enforcement, especially if you're not going to do it every day or once a week, even if you could do 1 hour once a week, and all it was bag work with roundhouse kick, a front kick, and straight punches. And if you could get an hour in on that would be 100,000 times better than what majority of law enforcement gets anywhere in this country.
Right.
And the bad thing about that is they don't get that time. They get it's a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Exactly.
And once that perishable skill is practiced, it's we actually practice shooting more than most agencies will practice their shooting more than they ever will their defensive tactics or their empty hand techniques.
Okay.
And I know the funding thing is really it's a real thing, because when you think about it, if I'm an administrator of a police department and I need to train my officers, but that means I have to take officers out of their regular assignments. Right? I've got to take them off the street. I got to take them out of their offices or whatever, and I got to put them in a training event. And now who's responding? Now an already understaffed department now doesn't have the staffing to, minimum staffing to be patrolling the streets, responding to calls for service. And so, a lot of times just having more numbers, having a higher allotment of staffing within a department can be the answer, because now you can rotate people into training off the street and still be able to provide the services to the community that are expected. And so, a lot of times that's it. I had when I was assigned as a full-time police academy instructor in Salt Lake City PD, one thing that I was able to do, and this is not common, but I was able to create an opportunity within the department where I would seek out different instructors of different martial arts that worked in the department. Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Kempo Karate. So on and so forth. And this was a department sanctioned program, and I was able to get these officers to create an 8-week program on what from their and of course I was providing the same knowledge through the Filipino martial arts, and I would I develop a program in 8 weeks, 2 classes a week that is specific, the application of your martial art to law enforcement. And so we would cycle this through, and officers, I was able to get the command staff of the department to allow officers to, if they were on duty, they could come in, provided, there was a slow day or evening, they could come in and attend that. Or if they were off duty, they could come in and attend it and adjust their hours on duty during the week.
I see. All right. Okay.
So it was a program that was getting ongoing training to providing the opportunity. Of course, as is kind of to be expected, the first couple of weeks you get, a bunch of officers. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to train. The next week there's about half of those people. The next week there's about half of them, and it always boils down to that same few people that, whether they had this opportunity or not, they're going to be going out and training somewhere anyway. So a lot of times it's incentivizing people to, and the thing with law enforcement is, and which Ken alluded to is, if they're not getting paid to do it, and they're not doing it on the clock, even if it's free, if they're not doing it on the clock, they won't oftentimes take advantage of the opportunity. So,
I mean, you still need some time for yourself there, and family.
I've actually heard of agencies, especially agencies that have like a union contract. the union contract stipulates the officer has to attend training. I've talked to a trainer in the Northeast before that literally had an officer come in and sit down, open up a newspaper, and start reading it. And when the instructor tried to get them to participate, he said, "Contract says I have to be here." It didn't say anything about participating.
Wow.
Oh,
So,
really?
you know,
Okay.
It's challenging, and if you force, you have to be careful how you force things, because once you start doing that, especially in today's society with it, you wind up with an injury, and one
Yeah,
major injury is
yeah.
enough to shut down the entire program. So you have to when I first started doing our DT program, I was adamant. Of course, it was a different time of day. It was 2002, and you could come in a little bit more hardcore in your presentation. And now you have to kind of change the delivery of the message. And when I was younger and dumber, so it was it was kind of a my way or the highway kind of thing. We're going to work. You're going to be here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So you have to be careful because once you start forcing people to do things, you'll wind up having somebody who wants to claim an injury or is actually injured because their heart's not in it, or they're doing something above their ability. So I had to change my whole outlook of LCD training, or lowest common denominator, and now you kind of have to factor in. I've got my. The group is the worst ever. Okay, now I've got a bunch of superstars. Before it was I had superstars and I've got a problem child. So you had to change your outlook towards dealing with law enforcement, because you're dealing with all walks of life.
That's true.
You can't go into a supermarket and find probably 10 or 12 martial artists in the entire market anywhere in the country. So you're dealing with the same thing, and people who have specific outlooks on stuff.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
I guess this could be for both of you. Is there a creative way or possibilities to create incentives? I mean, I understand if they're not getting paid, there's going to be a reluctancy for them to even show any interest at all, and all that. But why? And I guess, and tied in, why are these folks so complacent, Ken? Like, in other words, if I'm a police officer, I mean, wouldn't I mean, and again, I'm just, because obviously I'm not one, but if I'm a police officer, why wouldn't I want to further improve my ability to deal with the God forbid or the unknown? Why would I be complacent? Why is
it's a lot of it is people think cops can't be victims, but cops can be victims. I've been the victim of several assaults. Anybody that's ever been a cop has probably been a victim of a crime at some point in time or another. So, I mean, you have a lot of victim mentality where it won't happen to me, or if it happens to me, I can do this. Some of it falls into the realm of, especially the smaller the agencies, honestly, the worse it is in it won't happen to me. That doesn't happen here, kind of thing. Or people just don't know their limitations, and they have over reliance on their tools.
And just take it for granted. Tuhon, Jared, I mean, do you see the same complacency outside of law enforcement agencies? Like in the military, I'm guessing the mindset is different, or am I mistaken?
I mean, it depends, because I mean, when you say military, that's very broad, you know what I mean? I've worked primarily in that special operations community where people have an expectation of a higher probability of getting into stuff, and so there's, generally speaking, there's depending on, again, every unit is different than the other, but some will place a pretty heavy emphasis on the combatives training for their people. They'll invest a lot of money in getting the best training because they can, you took about, for example, here in the United States, the larger entities, for example, the big army, they have a program, and it's not often that they'll deviate from that. they just don't have budgets to, and they just don't allow for it. Whereas, you get special units that do have budgets, then they're allowed to spend them as they want, and they perceive a need to increase improve the type of training that they get, combatives focused. And so they'll invest in it, and they will, and they're more likely to get involved with that training.
Okay.
It's not as much as you would think. Like everyone's going to be beating down the door waiting to get into training. But oftentimes, you get a mandated, you get more mandated training programs. For example, it could be, one of the courses that I would help run was I've helped run on several occasions. It's called a Cephalic course. It's a Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat course. And it usually, with the unit that I work with, these were 2 to 3 week courses, and they during that 2 to 3 weeks, every morning there was an hour of combatives training, and so so it was part of a single, what we call a single period of instruction, as opposed to sustainment training, which is training that's going to be provided opportunities on an ongoing basis, which not everyone will take advantage of, but those opportunities are provided to people. So in that special operations community, you're more likely to get more involvement. Other military units that are not part of that special operations community, it's kind of like probably, and oftentimes even less than you'll get in a law enforcement, capacity, where basic training, you might have gotten some combatives.
Yeah.
But if you want to get any outside of basic training, then you got to go to an actual instructor path somewhere and become an instructor in combatives.
Wow. I guess I'm naive. I know. I'm just thinking, man, if you're on this job, man, you're going to take advantage of anything you can. You're going to be proactive in your job and your performance.
Well, we think that way. I thought that way. I think all of us have that mindset. I'm going to be as prepared as I can be. And sometimes it's hard to get into the mind of those that don't think that way. But the majority of officers, unfortunately, a lot of them mentally, they're on board with the idea, the notion. But when it comes to taking those steps to actually getting out there and getting the training, that's where that's fewer.
I think one of the biggest challenges is like law enforcement, and Jared can testify to this. There are programs. You'll have an instructor in defensive tactics. That doesn't mean you've been doing this for 5 or 10 years. That means you attended a 24, 32, or a 40-hour school. So that doesn't mean that you're good at it. I had this conversation with a friend of mine who has a grappling-based school that I went to, and I got my instructor certifications under him back when I first started, about 2002. 2003 is when I went, and it was very good material, but it's all pretty much really, really basic white belt jiu-jitsu stuff, with some upper belt stuff taken into play, but he had to train it for the lowest common denominator. And basically, even after you leave there, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. You get a manual, and a lot of law enforcement officers will come back to their agency, they'll teach their agency, and then again next year I'll open my manual up and I'll go back over the techniques, and maybe I look at them, maybe I don't. It depends. You got a wife, you got kids, you've got work, you've got overtime, you've got sick, whatever gets in your way on that.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of, so there's not really that instructor level, and I think that's where you see a lot of in the past couple of years have been real interested in law enforcement. One of the more I think naive things that I've heard come out has been trying to make legislation in certain states that officers have to achieve a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
I remember reading that.
I've done jiu-jitsu with friends. I've done it at a few classes, but nothing. I know enough that I can show you how I can tell you when I'm going to be choked out. I'll know when to tap. That's about as much as I know about jiu-jitsu.
When my arm's good about the break.
So yeah, exactly. And Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I don't know anybody that can go to the academies in Tennessee are usually about 12 weeks. long, and that's including law and everything else. And officer survival, firearms, emergency vehicle operations. You go to some larger agencies and you have 26, 32, 36-week academies. I don't know if I don't know of any jiu-jitsu school where I could go to that's a legitimate school where I could put in 8-hour days to 12-hour days for 26 weeks solid, let alone 12 or 10 or something like that, and get a blue belt. I mean, it's
yeah, I know.
It's really kind of naive for someone to stipulate that officers have to achieve that. 6 months training as a white belt would come a lot. That's a
as
lot
opposed
more.
To putting a belt mandate. Yeah.
That's actually a little bit more palatable because it's like anything in upper ranks in any martial art, whether it's jiu-jitsu, tertia, or anything. You can't walk in and say, okay, I've seen, like we were talking about 64 attacks. I've seen 64 attacks. I'm an instructor in it. I've been to 3 seminars on it, and I've trained it for 6 months. I'm an instructor. Right. It takes a long time to be good at something, and a lot of people don't have that dedication.
Especially
and
today.
Cops don't have a lot of free time because a lot of agencies, a lot of officers, they live off that OT, overtime, and extra security details. So many hours in the day, you work a 12-hour shift, and then you've got a 4-hour security gig, or you've got 4 hours of working on the side, mowing yards, whatever.
Family.
And you try to balance that out with wife, kids, and sleep. And most are like me. Most cops I know are like me. I sleep about 4 hours a night, and I'm good.
Wow. Tuhon, Jared, you kind of, in the beginning, we kind of open up that there's a lot that is kind of wrong with the current status quo, I should say. But what if you had to, like, and again, I know this might be difficult, but just in a general sense, what do you with the specific reference to law enforcement agencies? What do you think are needed essentials? Like, if you had if somebody asked you, okay, Tuhon, Jared, I want you to just give us a list of what you think needed essentials are, and now we're going to design a program around that. Like, what do you think would be needed essentials?
Yeah, and it's kind of take a couple of steps back. This is that, but in relationship to that question, it's actually one of the reasons why, one of the many reasons why the Filipino martial arts were so attractive to me as I went into a law enforcement career. And the vast majority of my Filipino martial arts training is in Bukidnon, Shikali, and I've had cross-trained in different arts as the opportunity arose. But the one of the reasons is because it is so multi-dimensional, right? As a law enforcement officer, I need to be. I mean, it's not I should be. I need to be well versed in a multitude of dimensions of the martial arts, of defensive tactics, combatives, and that includes. I need to be, if I want to be good at doing what I do, okay, I need to be competent in my striking capability. I need to be competent in my defensive capability. I need to be competent in my ability to utilize control holds and manipulation, joint manipulations. I need to be competent on the ground to a degree because fights do end on the ground sometimes. And I need to be competent in how to utilize contact weaponry, in my opinion, both edged and impact. I need to be competent in how to defend against weaponry, contact weaponry, projectile weapons at close range. I need to be competent, and I see them all interconnected as the fighting arts. I need to be competent in the utilization of projectile weaponry, i.e. my handgun, my rifle, if I've got a shotgun or whatever. So it's all, they all come together, but all of these different areas, some of these, there's a lot of overlap, right? So in other words, I would always, in a progression, in an academy experience, I would leave things like weapon retention towards the end of the training, because weapon retention is an integration of strikes, of manipulations, of takedowns, of fighting on the ground, right? So and so
excellent point.
it's all together. And so, all of these different areas should be addressed to some degree. And the way that I present the training through my TRICOM program, as I call it, they are divided into modules, and but even though they're divided into modules, there's a lot of overlap. Right. They integrate. If you've taken one course, then a lot of what you're going to learn in another course is going to be the same, because the footwork, the mobility is the same. The striking principles are the same. Some of the drills are the same. We're using the same set of joint manipulation techniques, and so there's a lot of overlap there. But all of these different areas should be addressed, in my opinion, and to some degree.
I totally agree. Everything that you mentioned there.
Honestly, Jared, the way TRICOM is set up it's kind of where I wanted to go with our program. When I first started it was we were breaking into ground fighting. That was a lot of ground fighting was the big catchphrase in early 2002, 2003, and it was a big craze. It was really getting into law enforcement circles, at least in Tennessee then. So what I tried to do was I talked to Tuhon Bill and Tuhon Jack about it some, and anybody else that listens. I kind of put everything that I got. I put a Piketty sprinkle on the dynamics, the plyometrics, because Piketty and Filipino martial arts really appealed to me when I first started in law enforcement, because then I wasn't a light heavyweight wanting to be a welterweight. I was actually like a lightweight trying to be a welterweight. It was vice versa. So now I'm getting older and fatter. But what I was able to do at like 163, 165 pounds was deal with people much larger than me, and I used that using plyometrics and speed and dynamics to develop power and takedowns, power and strikes, power and even touch pressure point controls. Instead of all the touch pressure point controls everybody had ever done that I'd ever seen was, you take your thumb, you do it, you push here behind, and I'm like, no, you hit. If I gotta touch you, it's I make the joke in class all the time, and with anybody that does it, Piketty is like the one of the biggest things I like about Piketty is everything's the bad touch. It every time you touch somebody, it should hurt because you're not.
You got a point there.
Yeah, if I can ask you to move over to here, I can tell you to leave me alone. But if it comes time to put hands on, then I'm not doing it to make you or me feel good. I'm doing it to accomplish a goal, and that's to end that. So I tried. That's kind of the flavor I tried to sprinkle into my class as I taught defensive tactics. I kept the punches. I boxed for a little while and was okay at getting hit, pretty much. But that taught me a lot. Taught me how to move a little bit more. But what I tried doing is I kept it really, really simple. Palm strikes, hammer fists, elbows, knees, round kick. Front kick was emphasis. I wound up putting more emphasis on front kicks than I did on the angle kicks or the round kicks. Kept everything low line, below waist on the kicks, and elbows were the king of the day. Knees were king of the day. Straight arm bars were your bread and butter. And basically putting everything into a Piketty dynamic. Everything was in using the footwork. Lived off the reverse triangle and sidestepping, and I tried to keep it that, and all the punches were straight punch, left, right, because I tried to make it not as confusing to anyone as jab, cross, jab, straight, because the straight and the cross are just the same punch, but it's delivered, the straight and the cross are the same punch, it's delivered at a different angle. So I tried to tie that in and then kept the hook punches out to avoid any injuries. And to just make everything simple. I've seen the little bit I've seen of Jared's program. I'm still trying to get you to Tennessee somehow, some way. I want to get you here.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but accolades.
The TRICOM program looks exactly what law enforcement needs. Everything I've seen on it, it looks exactly what law enforcement needs. Ground fighting, Muay Thai. in the stand-up clinch work. Clinch, I've been in more clinches than I have on ground.
Man, you better know how to
In 20
navigate those
and I've
waters.
and I've been a cop since 1993. So I've been doing it for a long time, and it usually starts at maybe 0 to 6 feet, and then it winds up in a clinch, and we may wind up on the ground.
And if you don't have clinch work,
so it's just hand fighting. Fighting for hands. The 2-on-1 has gone a long way too.
2-on-1 argument here.
Yeah.
Tuhon Jared. Let's Tom, you got something, but I was going to ask Tuhon Jared, basically him just to go into the Tricom program, unless you had something.
No. Yep.
Okay, right. So Tuhon Jared, I've heard nothing but accolades about your program. So where, I guess in simple terms, for people watching and for us, I mean, like, how did it come about? What do you address and everything?
Yeah, so it was an unintentional evolution. I was in 2004. I mean, I got into law enforcement 2000. 2004, I was assigned full time to my training unit, and there I am, 3.5, 4 years on the department, and now I'm teaching the salty old dogs how to do their job. So it was a bit daunting. When I got into that position, I was literally told, fix our DT, our defensive tactics program. And the next year, 2005, I got a contract with a local Army Special Forces unit. And so I was again having to develop programs, this time for a different environment, different rules of engagement, different equipment in many ways, but it was still hand-to-hand combat. And so when I was put in that position, I had to go through some evolutions. Essentially, my main forte was and is Filipino martial arts. I also had a background in box. I boxed from high school into college. I trained in Muay Thai. I started getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in '96 and had a chance during college to train some Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And so I had these experiences in these other arts, and so which really served to enhance those areas of, because I looked at the Filipino martial arts as the core, right? It's got everything. And depending on the individual or maybe the system, it may specialize in one of these areas, but it's a good way to bring it all together. Exactly. But you can't get into law enforcement or with the military and train in traditional methodology. It just doesn't work.
No.
Okay? It doesn't work. And it's not just the methodology, the amount of time and the evolutions that you need to go through, but it's a lot of times it's even the terminology, because you get into those areas and people get turned off when you get too martial artsy about it, right? And I've even seen other instructors out there that say, nothing I teach is the martial art. It's all combatives. And then as soon as they start teaching, well, I've seen each of those moves in many martial arts, right? So, but it's just packaging. It's just a mental thing. But as I started getting into these evolutions of putting programs together for new recruits, for in-service training, regular training of officers on the job, and then for military special forces, I started figuring out how to reduce and change the methodology so that it was more palatable, more digestible for people that are not. And so, essentially I figured out that I've got in a very finite period of time, I need to get people to build a functional skill set, something that's realistic, it's going to work, but also a retainable skill set, right? Because if it gets too complex, they're going to have fun during the training maybe, but next week they already forgot what they learned last week. So it's got to be retainable, it's got to be functional. And then and then like I was mentioning earlier, starting to kind of encapsulate the different areas that need to be addressed, and instead of trying to put it all together, which can become a bit confusing for the non-martial artists, kind of create methodologies that kind of meet those end goals. And so that was kind of the roots of the TRICOM program. I in 2006 I I did my first international seminar. This was in Germany at the state police, the Central Police Academy in the state of Hessen, where at the invite of a Piketty Tertia guy who was and is teaching at that academy, it's a big academy. I mean, they're responsible for the training of something like 14,000 officers in the state of Hessen. So
wow.
it's a big, it's a big responsibility they have. But I taught my first international seminar there, and I wanted to see what they were teaching, and a lot of their programs are very influenced by what they call German Jiu-Jitsu. And then I had other chances in different parts of the world to work with police officers and kind of look what works for you guys, and experiment with methodologies and kind of pull things. And so, in other words, it's an alive product. It's evolving. I don't make big changes because that doesn't make sense, but I'll tweak things here and there if I can see improvement that can be made. And that was kind of the roots of it, and kind of where it's come to today.
Wow. Guro, Tom, did you have anything?
Yeah, actually, you already answered one of my questions. Basically, what are the things that you change as part of your when you offered your services to the LEO in the military? Because I know sometimes different agencies have different needs. Of course, the military and the LEO has different needs. The one thing that I would like to ask both of you is this, because here in the UK, police officers actually don't want to learn Filipino martial arts because they find it administrative. How should we put it? It's going to be an administrative nightmare for them if they manage to apply it. If they manage to apply any of the skills during the line of work. Yeah, potential liability. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's because also how it is being packaged as one of the deadliest martial arts in existence. So how do you have that kind of problem? Where you basically where you offered your services.
Go ahead, Ken.
Not on my end, because I really a lot of the officers don't train with me. I mean, I've got my club I've got running here. I've got one guy training with me, and he's been with me for about 3 years now. But there's not a lot of interest in Filipino martial arts in Tennessee. A lot of people are turned off by knife work, stick work. They don't see the bridging of empty hands and grappling and everything can come into that. I think that's where Tuhon Jared's really doing some great things with it. I believe it was one of your videos, Jared, that I saw where Sagan Lebo was being done from the bottom position. And it's that I'm sitting here going like, oh my God, that's stuff that we've been working on and just turning it into almost hand fighting. So I think what I did is I kind of snuck mine into it. A lot of people didn't know. They were like, Pakeha, what? Okay, just that stuff you do. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you're a knife guy. And I'm like, yeah, I like knives. I collect knives. I train with knives. But, you know, as of yet, 51 years on this earth now, and I haven't stabbed one person except for myself. You know, so, you know, when you grapple, don't shrimp out and have a knife in your back pocket. Don't do that. Yeah, you will learn to levitate really quick. But I just kind of snuck those flavors into mine, and talking with several of my peers and instructors, one of the flavors that I like to sprinkle into Piketty or into my defensive tactics was the kind of, I call it a recontra theory, because recontras are, as Tuhon Bill McGrath described a long time ago to me, was like a sawed-off shotgun inside a phone booth. It's just overkill. And I tried to put that theory in there because I really wanted my officers, if you have to hit somebody, you hit them hard, you hit them fast, you hit them as often as it takes to end the threat, to get it over with. We don't, if you have to do a takedown, it's not gentle, it's hard. You slam them, you put them down. That way it increases officer survival, and also increases the odds that you're not going to hurt the person too terribly bad that's assaulting you once it gets into that. So I just kind of snuck that stuff in there into my program. I was very blessed with trust by my administration. And I've been under several different components of the administration, now a part of the administration. And that really helped me a lot. They gave me a lot of trust, and I built things inside of what they were giving me. I did SSGT, and we taught that for a while. We're still teaching that, which is a class. It's a law enforcement instruction thing from Johnny Lee Smith down in Alabama. And basically what I did is I took some ground fighting, and then I put some empty hand stuff in there. I took pieces of his program, which is really, really solid, and then I sprinkled Pakiti all over it, and put a little bit of boxing in there with flavor, and then just added a lot of nasty things, pinches, grabs, anything that really works. We went all over the gamut with it.
Yeah.
That would do it combined. What I have next for you guys, for drawing under pressure, to me, that's, in my experience with civil law enforcement, I saw a really huge deficit in that. And then just, it looks, again, my experience, that no to very little training, or even did it really good at target shooting, but never just drove under pressure, or experienced it, or even practiced it, or matter of fact, not even sure you even thought of it. So the 21-foot rule being kind of, I guess, I don't know if it's still the standard, but definitely referenced, I should say. What do you guys, how do you guys handle that? Drawing under pressure, clearing space, whether you're using an arm drag, depending on the proximity, or whether you're going to the ground if they're on top of you, if that's what you guys teach or advocate. Tuhon, Jared, what's your lens on that? Yeah,
no, I think that's absolutely essential. That element of training, and when you say drawing, that it could be that could really apply to multiple things, because if you look what an officer has on his belt, oftentimes he's got a firearm, he might have a baton, he might have a knife, he might have some pepper spray, he might have a taser, right? So he's got all these things that he might need to decide which one is appropriate to the scenario, and draw that particular weapon. And oftentimes, and this is something that is common in the Filipino martial arts, right? I begin my training session with my weapon in my hand, and we get good at that. But how did I get that weapon in my hand under the stress of that moment? And it's actually one of the courses that I've been teaching the last several years in law enforcement here in the I've taught it overseas, but mostly here in the US, is my duty knife as a backup weapon module. And in that module, we put a heavy emphasis. It's two things that I'll do. I'll show up, and I'll lay out a bunch of different knives on a table. We can go through PowerPoint and whatnot, but at some point I'll show them all these knives, and I'm not trying to sell anything to them. I'm trying to educate them on what is out there, because a lot of people just have never had that done. What type of technology is out there for knives? What are the retention considerations? Because if I can draw the weapon easily, so can the guy I'm fighting, right? So should I carry if we're talking specifically about edged weapons, should I carry a fixed blade? Should I carry a folder? Pros and cons. Technology as far as types of steel and locking mechanisms on folding knives, and so on and so forth. And so we'll educate them on that, and then we'll talk about where on my person I might consider carrying that knife, and then we'll drill it. We'll put pressure on it with a partner, and and people. Some people will walk away. We teach them how to use the knife also, in very simple terms, because I tell people, guys, I could give you a knife with no training, and I'm quite confident you could kill someone with that. Right? People die every day from knife assaults from people that have no training in that knife. So you can be deadly with a knife in the absence of any training. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you today. I'm going to teach you how to be more effective, more deadly with that blade. But I'm also going to teach you some of those other things. We're going to train some of those other, and people will walk away from the training sometimes and say, the biggest takeaway from this course was where I should carry my knife and what type of knife I should carry, because under stress, I wasn't able to get that knife out. I wasn't able to. And when I say stress, we're talking now about a clinch. Why am I stabbing someone? Well, they're trying to kill me, right? There should be no other scenario that I'm stabbing someone as a law enforcement officer if I didn't fear imminent threat of death or serious bodily injury.
Exactly.
And so what does that mean? What if they're close enough to stab and they're presenting some kind of deadly actions, then something's going on. And it's not likely it's going to be easy for me to get that knife out if I'm trying to stay alive, right? And I always use one of the principles of TRICOM is self-preservation before weapon presentation. So don't go to that weapon too early, because you need to survive long enough to actually get to it, right? So
I like that.
And so we'll drill it. We'll start going into a variety of positions and situations and scenarios, so people start thinking it through. There's no perfect place to carry that knife, because I could have someone covering my chest, I could have someone covering my waist, I could have someone covering my legs. So there's no perfect place. There's one place that's going to address every situation, but I can at least address the most common scenarios and then make an educated decision based on that.
Yeah.
No, I think that's wow.
And speaking of retention, I believe there have been, I know, a couple of high-profile incidents I recall. One I want to say was in Pacific Northwest of an officer getting disarmed. They had I want to say it was one of the, if the article I remember correctly was one of the Benchmade daggers that has, I forgot the model of it, but it's got the ring in it. And he had it on his carrier, but if you don't train retention, like Jared said, it's superfluous. And I think I want to say in that it's been a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that officer wound up having to kill the suspect because you see a lot of most things that happen with weapon disarms against officers are not, ooh, I see a gun on your side, that's my goal. It's, I'm in a fight. I'm fighting. I'm fighting. What is this? I'm touching. Oh my God! I found the treasure. And it's more of an opportunity that they find it. They're like, oh, here I can equal a fight, because humans are problem solvers, good guys and bad guys. Bad guys, you give them a problem, they're going to solve it, and if they're bad enough, they're going to take advantage of that knife. So the retention qualities of the sheath, the design of the knife, and the location you're carrying it, it's got to be consistent. It needs to be safe. It's got to be something that can be deployed quickly. But at the same time, something that you can actually work some kind of retention with. And that just takes practice. Too often, somebody will throw a piece of equipment on. They'll throw some gear on their belt or on their vest. And wow, I am cool. I've got this. It's kind of like buying the latest and greatest gun or the latest and greatest phone.
Show and tell in lineup for duty, right?
Yeah. I think it's really important that you spend time practicing how you draw things even under pressure, because it's one thing like practicing it, but also like when you've got like other factors like cold weather, your hands are slippery because it's wet or something. So you need to be able to approximate all those things as well. So when you practice it,
Amen.
Sweaty and everything. So
Yes.
Ken, with your fellow officers, do you like those who are somewhat that just don't have motivation or ambition to improve upon themselves? I mean, what do you advocate them? Do you say, hey, you guys might want to train drawing under pressure? God forbid somebody just comes, jumps you. I mean,
we try to have discussions. and I discuss it with my DT guys, and I'll discuss it with others. And just bring it up in conversation. Hey, that's a cool place you're carrying that. What do you do if somebody does this? What if somebody does that? How do you handle it? What do we carry it for? Because a lot of people will put a knife in their belt, and that's my backup, and it's not just that. It is a duty knife. You put that on. You may be doing anything with that knife. I've used a Benchmade to cut a front bumper off a car, so a young lady didn't have to call a tow truck. It took me a little bit of sawing, but where there's a will, there's a way. I'm a problem solver. And then again, me and another officer delivered a baby in the front yard with and used a knife. So knives most often will not be used as a backup weapon. They'll be used as a tool.
That's a tool.
But you have to address both aspects of it.
That's true.
Wow. So Tuhon, Jared, I'm dying to ask, like, you had to see some awful failures. I just got to be honest, Tuhon, Jared, like guys who I'm going to guess that thought they knew what they were doing, and then pressure on the drawing. Am I fair in saying that?
Absolutely. People have illusions of grandeur sometimes.
That's what I mean, like false expectations, like, oh, I got this, and then like,
secure, yeah.
Oh, man, what happened?
Yeah, or delusions, I should say. But it happens a lot, where people have expectation on. And there's lots of ways that you can kind of, that comes out. And one of those things that we that Ken kind of alluded to earlier was the, even though you didn't say it, I know that it was probably present in your mind, where you have those officers that don't want to train because they have that, well, if that happens to me, I'll just shoot them, kind of an attitude. And the reality is, well, no, you can't. In the vast majority, actually, of use of force incidents do not justify deadly use of force. So, and then if it does, oftentimes that action versus reaction dynamic in close quarters, you just don't have the ability to just shoot people all the time, and so so that kind of getting people to understand some of those dynamics, and it's what I call the buy-in phase of training, right? If people don't buy into what it is you have to teach them, they really don't want to know what you have to teach. You've got to kind of convince them. Yeah. This is why you need that. This is why you need to be training them. Once they've bought into it, then they start to open up a little bit. And I found in my experience is sometimes a little more than just showing them the evidence of why they need to train it, but also there's a lot of egos involved with the type of people that you train. You get into special operations guys, and there's a reason why they're so good at what they do is because they have these egos. And sometimes you got to kind of not come in and like, I'm the biggest, baddest bull in the room, and you got to kind of be humble in your approach to it, but show people that you've got something for them to learn from, and then they'll open up. And absorb, start absorbing material, and that's that. Then that's the key. What we're trying to do is we're trying to transfer knowledge to individuals, and until they're open, it's hard to really do that. And so,
I give you guys credit, man, because I don't have much tolerance for egos, man. Because we can all learn something, man. We're not good at everything. We all fail. Well, Matt, my opinion, true success is not without failure. So for these guys just to think like they're just gonna ace or I just find that I guess everybody's different, but I would be so frustrated if I were you, Ken. Like seeing like my fellow officers who are not even taking ownership to be the best version of themselves on the job or the safest version on the job. That would just be like
for the most part they are. You can take a highly professional officer, but they almost you do almost what's important now. What I need to know now is interdiction work. What I need to know now is searching, narcotics, better patrol strategies, gang enforcement, and stuff like that. But it's those little because police use of force is such a small percentage of what law enforcement do. It really is. Go away from what the media is trying to push and everything, and a lot of other people who are less than truthful in their delivery of information. Law enforcement generally, generally law enforcement. I mean, you're talking about like 1, maybe 2% of all citizen encounters with law enforcement, whether it's an arrest or just I walk up to you and talk to you, involve police use of force. I mean, it's really so little and so seldom. You still hear stories, of officers going 30 years, not drawing their weapon, 30 years, never having to use their weapon. It's a lot of those, maybe people that play it safe. You have people, just like all walks of life, you have risk takers, people that want to go in, work the worst part of town, and apply what they know. But at the same time, you'll find those people are the ones that are investing time in their training. They go into a boxing gym. If they don't do anything else, they do some jiu-jitsu. They get into Filipino martial arts. They spend more time on the range. So they take accountability for it, but it's kind of a thing of a needs assessment. And without, like Tuhon Jared said, without them buying into that need to know how to defend themselves, I love the conducted energy weapons or the electronic control devices, depending on where you're at and what they want to call them. Like the taser and the phaser, stuff like that. I love them. They're a very good tool, but there is so much over reliance on that. Like I'll just tase them, and before that, it was back in when I first started. It's like I'll spray somebody. I literally heard a guy tell me one time he would walk down the worst part of town and all he needed was a can of spray and he'd be good. And I'm like, he'll be dead. You can't do that.
He'll be good and dead.
You can't because you don't want to be over reliant on your tools. That's like going into a boxing match and my jab's better. I got the best jab out there. My jab is 10 times better than yours. But you've got a great hook. Somebody else has got a better hook. They've got better footwork. I can't be over reliant on the same technique. You can only go to the well so many times with something before they really put up a defense against it.
Exactly.
And we know for a fact that people are learning how to defeat tasers. They learn how to defeat spray. Bad guys. I went to a training one time where they actually interviewed a gentleman who had attacked an officer, and the basic thing was, he's the way he summed it up, if I recall correctly, was that the officer didn't realize he was dealing with a professional. He said, "I'm a professional bad guy. I know what I'm doing, and
of course,
and I didn't need your gun because mine was better." Wound up with an officer beaten and handcuffed to his own bumper. And the guy didn't even bother to take his gun.
Man, that's a bad day.
So it really, you got to get that buy-in. You got to get the buy-in for people. Without that, it's kind of like the rest of the world. That are not martial artists. We see those same problems with people. Why do you need that? Why do you need to know how to hit somebody with a stick? Because I know how to hit them with my hand even better. I've got a sense of timing. I can defend myself. I can defend my loved ones. I can take care of myself. Plus, it's fun. I like it.
All the above.
It's enjoyable. But at the same time, it's you got to find that buy-in to bring people in to recognize that this is life-saving. This can save my life on my worst day. And I may go my entire career and never need a Dewey knife as a backup weapon. But I would rather know where it is, that I'm prepared. And an ounce of preparation is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
We got a question from Morgan, and it's regarding the baton and for Tuhon Jared. So, do you teach any dos manos material, far as instruction for the officers or like that, whether it be baton use or anything for that?
And just to make sure I understand the question, you're talking double baston. You're talking two.
No, I think what he means by dos manos, I'm thinking two
hands.
Ah,
Two
gotcha.
hands, yeah.
Gotcha.
I think
like
so.
a
I think.
Sibat type grip on it.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, is there a place for it? Yes. Do I teach it on a regular basis? No. And the reason why is because of the standard size of most expandable batons don't necessitate two hands. It actually becomes a bit of a hindrance. There's a length and a girth of a weapon that there's a point where it starts to necessitate the two hands to be on that weapon, and then there's advantages and disadvantages, but there's advantages to that. I've got like a probably the only 4 sectional expandable baton on the market here. That is the type of baton that would require. It's actually not on the market. It's being developed, but it hasn't been sold. But
how long is that?
I'll show you it here.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I saw that on your YouTube video.
Yeah, no.
Oh my god!
This was
The longest baton I've ever seen.
Wow.
So this would require two hands to be effective with it, right? So this is what I mean about, the
like a baseball bat.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that is it 36 inches? Or
no, this is actually it's about it is about 36 inches actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
About the size of a riot baton.
What's that? Yeah, exactly.
About the size of a riot baton.
Yeah, and even exactly, but there are some departments that will use that longer because of the standoff distance. That longer baton, which again is a two-handed baton. So it's not something, like I said, because it's not a common for law enforcement, and so it's not really necessary. But there are some batons out there that start to get larger in girth, specifically like the Peacekeeper baton, which is a very heavy, thick baton that again a lot of people would need two hands to really be effective with it. But then when you start using two hands, you start creating other vulnerabilities with the ability to protect and weapon retention and whatnot. So, so is there a place for it? Yes, but with a tool that would require that, that control.
What's your guys? We'll bounce back to Guro Ken. What's your opinion on the collapsible baton or versus what police have?
I love the collapsible batons. It actually, because when I first started having batons, I mean that's what I.
Oh, my Billy Club, right?
Oh,
yeah, it's a hickory stick. And they're not very well made, and it is very true about batons. The hardwood batons, when they hit things, they will break. So. The ASP batons, when they came out, we deployed them. They're really, really good for duty use. You've got to stay away from the lightweight ones. The lightweight ones, we went to those and we broke those a lot.
Oh, okay.
A lot. I mean, you could bend them in training, hitting the pad. But in ASP's defense, they never marketed it for that. That was for ease of portability, carrying, concealment, and it's almost like a disposable baton, I guess. It was really lightweight. I mean, it was about as heavy as about a 7/8 inch, probably 26 inch long, 28 inch long piece of rattan.
Wow!
So it was really, really lightweight. The steel friction locks are good. Tuhon Jared's got an excellent video on the review of expandable batons. I watched it a couple of times, and I agree with everything he said in there. The friction locks they were the first ones that come out. The only thing is, I've found in the field that if you hit somebody and you can hit hard with a baton, the friction lock doesn't stay locked. in the field wise, I've got 2, 3, maybe 4 hits, and then it's collapsing. And,
Oh,
and
is that
that's not
right?
that's not
Okay.
even that's not a thrust. That's an actual
That's just,
number
you're just
1 or
hitting.
number 2.
Ah.
So they
Really?
will collapse after a
Yeah.
while, and
It's
that's
just
whether you're hitting meat or bone or anything.
Yeah, because they're held open through friction, right? And when you
Yeah,
start
yeah,
to vibrate it by hitting something,
Okay.
the
See,
friction
okay.
starts to break, and they will start to collapse oftentimes.
Brian Rodriguez made a funny comment here because you're from Tennessee. And then Guru Ken bursts out the Buford T justice. Oh, wait, no. Walking Tall. Right?
Walking Tall. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
actually
Walking Tall.
south of me from where I'm located. Buford Pusser.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God,
it was
Brian, that was
actually,
funny.
man, he's probably about an hour and a half away from where I live.
Yeah.
It's okay.
His hometown.
That was
Way
right
before my
on the
time.
money, man, Brian.
Way before my time, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
So
But,
Tuhon, you're a big fan too of the Collapsible Baton?
Yeah, absolutely. It has its place, without a doubt. One of and again, there's a variety of technology out there, and so some are better than others, depending on the locking mechanism, and also, like I said, what are you trying to do with an impact weapon? Deliver blunt trauma, right? And part of the formula for blunt trauma includes mass, right? And the acceleration square, 1/2 acceleration,
Yeah.
1/2 times mass times acceleration squared. So you've got mass and you've got the acceleration or the velocity. The mass is an important part of that. And so I could be, if I've seen with just an old, first generation ASP baton, I've seen a guy's hand hit so hard that bones were sticking out of his hand, his broken hand. So they can be effective, and they can be very ineffective too, based on the lack of mass behind it.
Yeah.
So they're not all expandable batons are created equally, but is there a place for it? Without a doubt. It's the portability and the ability to have that on your, it's having a full size hickory baton on you at all times becomes it's a lot of times people and I actually was in a generation of when I started as a deputy sheriff in 2000, where we actually still were issued a baton and had a ring on our belt. And when we were called, we had our expandable. So if we were being called to a hot call, you could grab your hickory baton and ring it up. And, but what all officers that would tell me that worked at the pre-expandable baton era, they said a lot of times people were in such a rush to get to help out someone in a fight that they would forget to grab that baton out of their car. And so they wouldn't have it on them. Or you're on a call without it and things just escalate and now you don't have that baton. So it's the portability of it and is a big bonus. And the way I like to compare it, right? If I know I'm going to a gunfight, give me my rifle. But if I'm just on my day-to-day business, I've got my handgun with me and things escalate, then at least I've got a firearm on my person. Yeah. And, and it's just, I kind of make that same comparison. It's good to have it and it's a good tool and it has its place without a doubt. Yeah.
To circle back into Morgan's question, Tuhon, Jared, do you ever teach the not the Dos Manos, but the double force from Pikiti?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
exactly. More of a wrist, just kind of, it's easier to teach people. It's easier to teach people, on that backhand angle, those two angles, right, where you're actually putting some push into that. It's a little bit harder to teach people how to capture that from the forehand.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is something that I'll often teach in the baton program.
I've used it to help develop power. Especially on the backhand, like you said, on the backhand strike, because some systems will call it a recovery strike. I've seen it where this one, you come with the number 1, and coming back was just to rechamber. And the way I taught it was, I'm hit you once. If I'm coming back this way, I've got to hit you. I want to hit with power. I don't want to just. That's a wasted motion. And come back and actually get the lats and everything in there and get your hips into it too. And really blow through it. And that backhand strike is really a killer strike.
Yeah.
It really is with the
For a lot of
as
people,
far as
they can hit
power.
harder. A lot of people can hit harder with the backhand strike than their forehand strike. So
Yes, they
There's a
can.
wind up, and plus you put that power assist in there.
yeah, you can get a lot of body
Yeah.
behind the movement too.
And then add a little bit of footwork and a little bit of sprinkle of the hip and
Yeah,
Of course.
a really plyometric move.
yeah, especially a little
You've got
sprinkle
the
on
whole
there.
biomechanics working for you.
They
Yeah.
should provide you guys with Bahi wood or iron.
When I lived in the Philippines, I was in the provinces, provincial small towns. This is pre-cell phone era, and a lot of the Bantay Bayan, the guys that were kind of the law enforcers of the barangays, they would carry with them either a Bahi wood or a kamagong, and they weren't carved round either. They were carved kind of oval, or almost rectangular, so that it was more of a, when they hit with it, it's got to get more energy, more psi into that narrower. And they're very the great wood. I mean, unfortunately, and a lot of those woods in the Philippines are actually protected now. So they can't really cut those trees down, but they're great woods for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you, Tom? Did you have anything?
I just actually want to add something on what Guro Ken said earlier on with regards to the lightweight collapsible batons. I saw a video. They're trying to basically stop a guy who's kind of psychotic, and he's holding a screwdriver. Okay, and he's basically running amok. So this security guard obviously has a lightweight type of collapsible baton. Tried to hit the arm 5 times, not done anything. On the fifth hit, the front one part of the collapsible baton just basically flew away. So it's like,
and it's probably, I'm sorry to kind of interject it, but I've seen that happen a lot of times with these batons that are kind of generic, made in China,
that's true as well. Yeah.
Truck stop baton.
Yes.
Like truck stop knives.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a tourniquet made from China, and then you get the windlass breaking as well when you're using it.
Well, I've done some working with a German expandable baton company. I've helped them do some demonstrations for police departments in China, SWAT teams in China. And the first thing we would do is we would call someone out of the audience and have them take out the baton they had on them, and we would take the made in Germany one. And what my training partner, I'd give him their baton, and we'd just do like a force for force strike. And typically that first strike, just like you said, it'll either bend or the end shaft will just go flying off. And we're just like, that's why you don't carry that baton that you got on you. That's why you carry this one, kind of a thing. It's a very it's a simple demonstration of the rigidity of some technology out there.
Exactly. It's hard to rely on that, especially if your life is at stake. So just to find out that this is not gonna work.
Right, yeah.
And that's the thing too, is you talk about that. You talk about strike areas also, and a lot of times when you're striking center mass of the muscular areas of the arms or the legs, you're hoping that you're kind of relying a lot on pain control, pain compliance, blunt trauma pain compliance. If you really want to incapacitate someone that's not feeling pain, you really have to look at breaking bones and looking at the hands or the elbows, or whatnot, things that could actually break, that will make it physically, mechanically not be able to function anymore. Because shy of that, it is a pain compliance tool.
Yeah, you look at some of the sparring that we do in Filipino martial arts. Some are using heavier sticks, some are using lighter weight sticks. So depending on your opponent, you don't want to break somebody's hands because they're a dentist or or a doctor or play a piano or something, or a computer engineer. You may be using 7/8 inch sticks, and sometimes you're using 1.5. Some people, dog brothers, will you have sparring against wooden bokens. So you see those, you don't see people getting hit in the leg and stopping.
Oh yeah.
Because they'll get hit in muscle mass, and it's not stopping what they're doing.
Exactly.
The things that really stop people with a baton or a stick, whatever you want to call it, are bones.
No,
I mean,
definitely.
that's the things that tend to stop. But a lot of policies direct, and a lot of policies, a lot of training direct towards muscle groups and everything, and nerves more than muscle groups. So, yeah, for liability, but you still have that part where you can escalate, where you've tried one and it doesn't work, or you don't have the time to apply it to a specific area. So some baton manufacturers have a really, really good system of describing the target for that, and some groups that teach baton use will have actually a good thing where you're not specifying hit this motor function area, don't hit this nerve, the median nerve, the ulnar nerve. You're hitting into the arm. You're hitting the offending appendage or the attacking appendage, whatever you want to call it. So it's still it's a batons are. I guess it's a good point to segue into why batons don't work. A lot of times the batons don't work is because of one, the training, and two, the intent of the person swinging the baton. I've never hit anybody with a baton. I'm going on 29 years in law enforcement. I've used my baton maybe about 5 or 6 times. And that's a lot, because I know officers that have been doing that as long as I have and haven't ever used it. But when I made it readily available to myself. But still, anytime I've ever hit anybody with it, I don't want to hit them twice. If I hit them twice, it's because they withstood that first shot, or I've missed. That because you really want to put bad intent behind it. You want to hit with power, you want to hit with precision, you want to hit with technique, and that goes into the aspect of training. But I think I've heard a lot of officers tell me that my baton sucks and it doesn't work. I'm like, that baton doesn't get up and swing by itself.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a motor in it.
Yeah.
You tell me your car doesn't work, I'm going to believe you. You tell me your taser doesn't work, I can believe you on that. I can get behind that. But the baton is, that is a person-driven device.
Device, yeah.
If it didn't work, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be because the person behind it didn't do what was needed. They didn't train before. They didn't prepare for it by training, and when they come time to apply it, again, far be it from me to correct the media that's out there, but law enforcement doesn't go out every day to hurt people.
Of course.
And the majority of cops I know will get hurt in a fight because they're trying to not
avoid. Wow. Just closing up. Tuhon, Jared, what if you had a wish list or future goals on that, what would you like to see occur within the agencies that you have taught or been exposed to? Like, if you could just go in there with a magic wand and they would pay you, give you full carte blanche to whatever you want to do. Like,
in order to get the broader reach with the training programs, to be honest with you, it would take some policy changes to make things a little bit more institutional. Okay, and that's kind of what I would look at doing, is making, because if, like I said, you can lead a horse to water, right, but you can't make him drink. And so a lot of times, it's if it's not an institutional training program, just providing people free training is not going to make them train. And so, but also, it's kind of a multi-tier, because at an institutional level, I think there needs to be more mandated training, right?
Yeah.
More mandated training.
I would agree.
But that takes like I said, like we said earlier at the beginning, that takes resources, because now I got to have enough staff on my department to keep providing the services that are needed as those officers are rotating the training. And then who's providing that training? We need to get either within our department, we need to give our instructors the level of training that they need and the ongoing sustainment training, or we need to be contracting subject matter experts to come in and provide that, which it's a good thing, because a lot of times officers, someone that does that for a living and has done it for a long time is going to be better at teaching it than an officer that went to that 40-hour training course. And so outsourcing where possible, but all of this requires budgets, it requires resources, and that are important, because like the number one liability is the failure to train in law enforcement. But it's not just the money thing. That's the kind of the buy-in to get the admin guys to realize you're going to save money if you train them up front. Really, it comes down to how can I get my officers to survive violent encounters and to better protect the community that they serve. That's I'm all about the officer. The guy on the street that's out there. How can we keep him and her safe? And how can we help them to keep the public safe? And that's really what it's all about. But it's like I said, it's got to start at the top. And it's got to be, institute, and these things just require financial resources to be able to manage that.
To add to that, a lot of that actually, some of it. I mean, there's some regions in the U.S. I mean, it would actually take legislation to make that happen. It would take a state law, and then you're looking at cookie cutter state laws that apply.
Unfortunately, you're right.
The things that Los Angeles Police Department faces isn't going to be the same as a North Carolina agency. There are some similarities, but some of the threats that you see in the two different jurisdictions are sometimes different. So you have to apply certain funding for it and legislation for it. So I mean, it's a slippery slope on doing that. But once you get the funding, you have to have a solid policy that really reflects the intent, which is survival. And has to take that into account, or it can't has to take that into account, because you can't have a policy that preserves the bad guys over the officer, because you're making the officer start out at a weaker spot, and then you're already responding. The one thing that you can get all political aspects probably to agree on is that officers are responders. We respond to things. So that's you're already starting behind the eight ball, especially when you're responding to the barking dog call that turns into the guy swinging an axe call, that turns into the arson call, that turns into the guy hiding the rape and attacking you with an axe because he was caught leaving the scene of something. So it's you never really know what you're going into, and your policies have to reflect that level of training and that freedom. You don't want to make things too constrictive and tie the hands. I've seen policies. I don't know if Jared, I don't know if you've seen it before. I've seen policies on batons. You shall not strike the prostate. And I'm like,
oh really?
Okay. I'm like, have you seen those?
I have not seen that, but maybe they got trained by Grand Tuhon when he was telling them to actually target that. So.
I have seen those, and when one of the arguments I had with my agency a long time ago, and with some other officers in another agency, we were talking about it, and I was like, why is that even in there? Wow. And they're like, well, you can't. I'm like, but if I'm in a fight, do I really want to, in a fight for my life, do I really want to say I will not do something? If you can do anything you need to survive it, but it's hilarious some of the things you'll see written into policy because they think something is too deadly. The hot topic in Tennessee has been chokeholds throughout the country.
Chokeholds.
And that was I forgot who I was joking with it about. It's the thing about it. I was joking with a friend of mine who did jujitsu. It's like, they want us to have blue belts in jujitsu.
Yeah.
Oh, Ben froze.
I think he did freeze.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pause and think about that one, guys.
Yeah, that's what I thought against you too.
You guys still thinking about that one?
Yeah.
You pause there, Ken.
Yeah.
Or are we supposed to be thinking about that?
Oh,
There you go.
There you go. Slack.
Ken?
There you go. You're back.
Oh, you
Ken, you're
paused there for a second.
I thought being hijacked by Master Ken now because he narrating the going part.
Oh, me.
But well, guys, this has been unless Tom, you have more questions. I'm.
No. Oh, okay. Something popped into my mind. Like in your policies, do you have like policies that you can only hit certain parts besides not hitting the prostate? Because like like here in the UK, they do have like a green light, an amber, and a red when it comes to hitting when they use the baton. So like green light, they can only hit like the muscle. Okay, they go amber, they can hit the joint. Red, that's the only time that they can hit basically like high value targets in the body. So
Usually, oftentimes here, what you'll find is something very similar, but it's not really. Typically, it's not a policy per se. Sometimes it could be, but it's more part of the documented training program.
okay.
That's given to the officers, and then typically, I would hope that it's articulated most of the time here that nothing is completely wild, nothing is completely out of bounds.
Yeah.
But it depends on the situation. The situation will dictate what level of force is, and so you're educated on what the possibilities are based on hitting different targeting areas of the body, and what circumstances might justify that.
Yeah.
That's the same one policy wise. Everybody I know in the state of Tennessee, the majority of their policies say you should avoid strikes to the head unless deadly force is with the baton. Avoid strikes to the head unless deadly force is required or could be required. So it like Jared said, it's all about how you explain it and how it's warranted. As long as because if you're dealing with somebody that lies to justify being able to use a technique on somebody, that person will see themselves out of law enforcement fairly fast.
Yeah, exactly.
That because you can only get away with that so many times before that comes back to bite you.
Yeah,
especially in a day with cameras.
Cameras, yes, exactly.
Body worn cameras. Everybody videotaping things now. That's actually that it shows that we're more honest than what people think.
Yeah,
the majority of the time.
Yeah,
but it does also catch bad apples, and when we find a bad apple that does something, we got to pick that apple out and we got to throw it out. It has no place in there anymore. So the policy, the ones that we have, it doesn't restrict you from ever doing something. It just states when that would be justified. To do that, to escalate something up a little bit lighter, higher, heavier hits.
Yeah. Okay. So as long as the use of force is proportional to the situation.
Yeah. And it's based off of subject action. It's the primary thing that judges all law enforcement uses of force. Is what was going on when you used the force. When you had to use force, what threat did you see? What threat was facing you? And what did you have to do to overcome it? And what would a reasonably well trained officer in the same position do? So that's some of the key things that people should take into account. That's what the courts have to take into account.
Yeah, exactly.
And policy will hinder us a little bit more than a majority of agencies have more restrictive policies than what the law actually will allow an officer to use.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's true.
That's good. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's cool.
Tuhon, Jared, any closing thoughts?
No, just appreciate you got your time having us on here, and I really I really feel the Filipino martial arts can benefit police officers. There has to be a filter put, just like with any martial art, you could say the same thing. There has to be a filter that's put on that art so that it becomes relevant to who you're teaching. But having said that, I think there's a lot that law enforcement could glean from Filipino martial arts training. Like I said, because it does address so many of the aspects of defensive tactics that a law enforcement officer should be trained in.
Yeah. I think so. I don't think you can find a better art to do that.
And one of the things I'll echo what Tuhon Jared said. Filipino martial arts, I think, are very, very pertinent to law enforcement. It's very important, even if it's just a launching platform for the dynamics and everything. It helps because a lot of officers aren't 6'6", 280 pounds with zero body fat. A lot of officers fall in there between 5'2" and 5'11". They're a lot of smaller people. That helps. Filipino martial arts, we're really designed for smaller statured people. That dynamic, it helps to learn the body mechanics. So when you do have that, you find somebody that I remember sparring a guy that Tuhon Bill had at the 96 camp. And I thought he was a big muscle bound guy, and here I was fleet on my feet. When I found out he was as fleet on his feet as I was, and he was bigger and hit harder, and he was using a lot of techniques he got from boxing and jiu-jitsu, and he also got it from studying with Bill for a long time. He hurt me a lot. So it really increases that plyometric feel, the dynamic of it. It can make a strong man or woman hit harder, stronger, faster, more often. It allows them the dynamics to apply locks better. It really, Filipino martial arts, and it's just not Bikini. A lot of the Filipino martial arts really have that same stringent plyometric dynamics to it and everything. And I like that. I think it's Filipino martial arts really do have a lot to give to American martial arts, period, integrating them in, but especially in law enforcement, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you find a better art overall.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, just, how can you, my saying is, I mentioned this on the show, how can you begin to understand defense if you don't understand the offense? By understanding the offense of looking at a knife and all that, I'll say as an officer, like where you guys train, Tuhon, Jared inclusive, I mean, isn't that going to be better prepare you if you understand the offense? Well, how would you understand the offense if you take part of the system?
I know several years ago, I went to, couple of decades ago, I went to a very high profile 2-week long school, and it was very integrated. We had a lot of things, but there was no weapon use in there, no batons, no knife. And then they broke out, I forgot the knives. Man, it was like an aluminum dagger, double-edged, and it had the little felt thing on the edge, and you could put, I forgot what they call those things. But you could actually put little paint marking and stuff like that on there. And they were like, they kind of got it out there, and the instructors were like, okay, how do you defend against this? No, that we're asking you, how do you defend against this? And we just, for about 2 hours, we played with knife defense and just making it up as we went. And that was part of the instructor making me an instructor in that. And I was like, if I didn't have Pakiti Tersha behind me, I'd have been completely lost, and I'd
been irrelevant. Background, like you understood the offense.
Yeah.
Right. See, it's like how you defend a tie kick if you don't understand the offense of the tie kick. Yeah,
because that was the case. I mean, it was basically it turned into just kind of the dance of the monkeys. I mean, everybody grab an arm and everybody would just start doing the dancing bear routine, and fighting over it until somebody got tired of trying to do that. So it not defending against weapons and weapon use. I mean, you really need. We teach people how to defend against firearms with firearms tactics. We don't teach people how to defend against knife with knife tactics or with stick tactics or against a stick or anything. Our answer is go to the gun. But if I'm 0 to 6 feet away and you attack me with a knife, if I'm trying to pull my gun out, I'm stupid.
All right, no, they're gonna be on top of you.
I've got to do something else.
Yeah.
I've got to engage, move offline, and then access a greater weapon.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you both coming on.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I appreciate you having us, and
Thanks for the invite. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it's great.
anytime.
John Jared, it's great actually meeting you and talking
Yeah,
to you.
likewise.
Email.
Hopefully
Hope to
we'll
see you
get
in
some
the future in
training down
person,
in your
so.
neck of the woods sometime and sometime
Yeah,
in the
hopefully you
future.
can,
I am still talking to people actively in the state about this.
well, yeah, we hope it works out. That you can finally get them down there. You know what I mean? But yeah, me, Guro, Tommy, both thank you for coming on. If we
Thank
don't
you.
talk to you,
Appreciate
by
you.
all
Thank
means,
you.
Hope you guys have a
Right,
great
thank you.
holiday.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Merry Christmas to you.
All right, guys.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, I got you guys here. All right, folks, that wraps up episode 238. That was a good one. I think. Hopefully, I think, folks, once we post it on the channel, I think that's going to do pretty well. I think it was incredibly informative.
Yes. Very, very informative.
And who is next? Questionable on Monday. I'm trying to find out. Tuhon, Bobby, and
The
brothers.
Yeah. The Ladra brothers.
The larger Monday. If that doesn't happen, then after that it would be Wednesday, which I'm having Stockton multi-style.
Yes.
Cava, Nelson Pinto.
Mm.
But we also have some other news, which I'm going to. If you want to talk about that, I'm going to pull up the photo.
Oh yeah, guys. So, like what we said last night, I know we just finished actually the Christmas raffle. Maybe was it last week? 2 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah,
But-
before the travesty.
Yeah. December 12th. That was the date when we did the raffle. But because of this calamity in the Philippines, we were Morgan Garrett spoke to us and asked us if we are willing to do another fundraiser for this calamity, and we agreed that we're going to do it, and we already have some generous people who have donated, like either a training blade, a video, like Tuhon Bill. Morgan himself is going to be donating a TFW balisong. Yep. And also it comes with an hour of lesson of how to use it. So and then we have 2 winners of the crimp, which donated.
Matter of fact, I have 2 that donated their winnings from the Christmas raffle to this, and that is Emmett Page and Carl Stark.
Yeah.
Both. Well, yeah. So that was obviously very nice.
Both Magnum.
Are they both? I know one is. Are they both? You could be right. Are they both?
Yeah. So thank you very much, Emmett and Carl, for donating your winnings for this charity.
And I think I'm trying to find Carl Stark, the one he won.
And Guro Brian is donating some what's this history?
Yeah, it was Iran from the war, right?
Yeah. So some mementos from the Iraqi War, 1991.
Yeah, something like that, and
something like that. Yeah. So those who are like into that kind of collection.
Yeah.
And I myself I'm donating trainer from Ontario Knife. So it's a Bowie and a Tomahawk. I'm also donating a book on the Balisong, and one of the authors of the book is actually Master Sani Ompad.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So,
that's why I'm buying tickets.
Yeah, and I'll be offering as well 2 1-hour online lessons for any winner.
Hey, just remind me, Carl Stark, the one he won was a standard issue.
Standard. Okay, so one standard and one white Magnum.
So Brett's Magnum, Emmett's Magnum, Carl's standard.
Standard.
Also,
All right.
Ron Zielinski donating to.
Yeah, and GM Brian is donating 2 books of GM Remy Presses.
Did you get the picture? I put a picture. Okay.
Yeah, I'll edit it later and then post it.
If you need me to send it again, just let me know.
Okay, will do. So yeah, and guys, so we have basically we are in contact with the Philippine Red Cross. So all the monetary donation is going towards the Philippine Red Cross because as it is, we've got almost 10 areas in the Philippines that are affected by this typhoon, and a lot of families are affected. According to Save the Children, I think there are about even 4 million kids that are affected by this typhoon.
Hey, we already got during the interview. We got James Lynn last night. Emmett Page sent $50, and Clive Turner sent 10. So we already received $110.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, I know, guys. It's I would say because it's close to Christmas, it's kind of like the wrong time. But any extra money that you got towards the donation will actually help.
Anything helps.
Yeah.
So don't think any is too little is too little. Anything helps. I mean, so the dollar, from what I understand, goes a long way over there. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so this has been a great one, folks. Obviously we'll cover more of that. You'll see it being regularly posted, talked about on FMA discussion. We're constantly going to be reminders and what have you. We're going to try to generate as much as humanly possible for them. So our job is going to be constantly reminding you.
Yeah, and we deeply appreciate all your generosity, guys.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, Christmas raffle was such a success. My goal was 500. We reached 750.
750, yeah.
So 50% over the goal. So can't argue that. So but at any rate, folks, I want to thank you, those who tuned in and watched. If you have not already, please subscribe to FMA Discussion on YouTube, where we raise all the monies that we receive from the channel go to charity.
Yep.
And all that. And until next time, which I hope will be Monday, but I'll be finding out shortly.
Yeah, after Christmas. Yeah.
Don't talk to you. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday.
And you.
And Tom, as always, pleasure. And we'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Have a nice Christmas, guys. Stay safe and see you in the new year.
All right. Thanks for the assist tonight. Thanks.
No worries.
All right. We'll be in touch. All right. All right, folks. Take care. We'll see you next time.